Good afternoon and welcome to our session this afternoon for a Friday on YouTube and through Asbas Digital Solutions to introduce the concept of networking to you and how to become a better networker. I'm Dante St James. We've got a few people in the session today live, so welcome to you. The chat panel is open, as is the Q&A. So if you've got questions along the way, please don't hesitate to let me know what those questions are. I'm just going to do a quick sound check. It looks like everything's working. So thank you. Let's go. This session is brought to you by the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program, a program of the Australian Government and Business Station Incorporated in WA. We've got Brisbane and Queensland represented by Regional Development Australia office in Brisbane and Treaty Business Consulting in my home state or territory of the Northern Territory. This will also be available on YouTube a little bit later today under my own YouTube channel, and probably middle next week when it comes to the Business Station channel. You'll be able to watch it there if there's something you've missed or you'd like to get a little bit more in depth with. If you are watching on YouTube right now, please comment below if you've got any questions. We'll be checking on those regularly, as well as subscribing to this channel so you'll be able to see a lot more of this kind of content. A quote from Ivan Misner, who was the founder of the BNI Network, or Business Networking International, is that networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. Very wise words, and we're going to explore the concept of hunting and farming just a little bit later on. What we're going to look at is the concepts behind online networking. We'll look at a simple plan for increasing your own online network. We'll look at then offline networking, the stuff that you probably think of more as networking than the online stuff. And we'll give you a simple strategy for making it that just a little bit less awkward and a little bit harder to approach. My name is Dante St James. I'm a member of many networks. Some of these networks I'm going to explain next why I'm part of them. I've been part of BNI and Business Expansion Network in Queensland. I'm now part in the Northern Territory of Territory Proud, Australian Computer Society, the Be Connected Network nationally, SCOL International, the Australian Industry and Defence Network, the Australian Marketing Institute, the Australian Institute of Office Professionals, the Chamber of Commerce Northern Territory, and Tourism Top End, to name just a few of the things that I find myself networking in. So the question really begs to ask is, why do I network quite as much as I do? Why am I a member of so many things? And it's quite simple, because it's good for business. This good for business. We're talking about serious revenue that I've gained over the last 2 years with these particular chapters. In the case of BNI and BEN, because I don't live in an area that they service, I'm talking about figures from 2017-18 when I was in that area. But as you can see, every one of these networks have had quite significant net gains. Probably the standouts for me at the moment are the ones that were really, really cheap to get into, like Proud, $250 for 2 of my businesses to be entered in there, $125 each. It gives me access to people where I've gained $7,700 worth of revenue over 2 years. Whilst that doesn't seem like it's a heck of a lot, when you start to look at my membership with SCOL International, which was over the last 3 years, I've invested a total of $2,320 into that particular network in terms of memberships, turning up to their monthly events and sponsoring prizes. That has generated a revenue of $32,800. It's definitely been a very big return on investment. Now, each one of these places I've chosen very strategically to be part of, either because they were recommended to me as places to go and network, or I identify them myself as being aligned with either my values or aligned with the kind of clientele that they have or membership list that they have that is most likely to want the services that I may offer in the future. So first up, we're going to look at the concepts behind online networking and how that's taken apart. This is certainly, I guess, for more introverted people, the kind of networking you're going to be more interested in. It is, though, not necessarily the most effective kind of networking. That said, it can be very effective. I've certainly made a lot of money out of networking through LinkedIn and through Facebook, probably because I work in both of those realms as well. The 2 big kahunas for online networking, unsurprisingly, are Facebook and LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn really does come to mind as probably the obvious choice when it comes to networking online, because it is a business network of its own. It's to do with professionals. It's to do with people who are there to do, promote, or talk about business, whether it's theirs their employers, or they're trying to raise their own personal profiles. Or for me, LinkedIn is my most common place to be. Whilst I'm personally on Facebook and I do business on there, it's more about staying connected with family, friends, and my world. LinkedIn is 100% business. I'm all about building my profile, becoming well known for what I do, becoming the expert in the room, and making a little bit of connection with other businesses so that I can serve them in some way, shape, or form. In LinkedIn, there's three areas that really become the primary areas where you will do networking activity. And first is in the feed. Secondly, in LinkedIn's subject matter groups, and by posting yourself to the feed, by being an active participant on LinkedIn rather than just a consumer of the content that comes through on it. Let's take a look at those a little bit more closely though. In the feed, we're looking at interacting via comments. So I've got some examples of how that looks very shortly. We talk about sharing other people's content on the feed. So that's more about you posting yourself, posting content of your own, again, about posting yourself. But what I really would like you to look at is this interacting via comments on the material that other people are posting. Now, two different kinds of material that people will be posting largely is stuff that goes in the feed. So they're posting updates, they're posting news stories, they're posting stories in general of positive or uplifting things that are happening, or news that's happening within their business or within their employer's business. Now, that's the kind of material that you can then interact with people to become part of their world. Whether you're connected to them or not, you're able to do that by simply following them. Now, following is a lot less intrusive than forcing a connection on LinkedIn. I will talk a bit more about the idea of soft outreach as a method of growing your network on LinkedIn a little bit later in this webinar. Now though, what we'll look at is then the groups aspect. Now we'll take a look at these examples. So Jack is a young guy who works with me who posted material from another person's profile and said, hey, Megan posted this, I'm adding just my part to it. Then Cruz, who is one of our master networkers in our local area, he hopped in there and said, hey, way to go, Jack Cameron. Cheering on other people creates rapport, and that's repeated when Cruz himself did a post on the right, which was sharing the joy of attending a launch, of a new social media-based business that I also went to. He tagged both of us in it, and then a mutual friend of ours, AJ, who's based in Melbourne but used to live in Darwin, then mentioned both of us, and great to see us together. Now, he may not know that Cruz and I do quite a bit of work and networking together. We go to a lot of the same things and we're quite good friends. But then being referred to as heavyweights has added extra rapport between the three of us. But beyond that, it's actually because of his sphere of influence in Melbourne has shown that this guy who speaks to a lot of people in Melbourne and Sydney, and pre-COVID at least, he's speaking to probably just in Melbourne these days at the moment, that he approves of us. He has a relationship with us, and he's pretty much endorsing us as people who are heavyweights in what we do. Now, that's a really nice thing. It's a nice ego stroke for me, sure. What's most important for me is that it grows my exposure to a network. As a result of that particular one, people in AJ's network, about 20 to 30 of them all came into my profile, had a look, and a good proportion of them then asked to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So this goes to show that whole networking effect is simply because there's comments that took place on there that supported the material that was being shared and the people who were tagged in those photos. So it was actually a great way to do a little bit of lifting each other up in there. And I've got a bit of a formula to help you through that a little bit later on as well. When you're operating in LinkedIn groups, you can read posts from other people, and you can then reply what I call strategically to the posts that other people are putting in there. So an example of that would be showing next that you could find a group that you follow that's got an area of interest or your industry perhaps. If you're working in lifestyle, well-being, health, those kind of areas, there's plenty of groups that contain people who post about those particular topics. Now, to position yourself as some kind of expert, you can participate in conversations and comment threads of what people are posting in those groups. What you'll find is you'll learn a little bit something new from other people, and hopefully they can learn a little bit of something new from you as well. You can then reply to specific posts that you feel like you can add some expertise or some experience into the conversation with. You do not have to know the people you're commenting on. They're not people who necessarily you're connected to. In fact, most of the time, you're not connected to these people in this group, but you can still comment on what they're posting to that specific group. Now, some groups can be very empty. Some of them can be very inactive. But then there's some in various industries that are very, very active indeed. And they're a great place for you to mix with other people who do similar things to what you do, or complementary parallel things to what you would do as well. So LinkedIn groups are a great place to grow a little bit of online reputation and network with others who are in either similar or the same kind of category as you. Now, chances are if you're in regional Australia in a smaller town, you're not going to find too many of the same people who do what you do in there. But what you will find, though, is perhaps people who are in other markets who do what you do. So it's great for getting new ideas from people who perhaps see more people than you do, have bigger client bases than you do, or have some kind of insight or access to something that you don't. This is what groups look like. This is on a mobile. So you'll see that there's one called Radio, Television, Broadcast and Voiceover Professionals. It's a group with quite a few people in it. And you see people posting their stories in there, either making their comments on the radio industry, the voiceover or audio production industry, or they're offering their services as radio and television broadcast voiceovers. Now, just going in there and posting and saying, I do this, I do this, I do this, is probably not a great idea, because remember, we're talking about a group of people who are radio and broadcast voiceover people. Advertising yourself as, hey, I'm available for radio and TV broadcast voiceovers right now, preaching to a whole bunch of people who already do what you do. You're just more competition to them. The people who are buying your services, buying your voiceovers, are not going to be in this group. So posting to that in some automated way of just spamming it full of, hey, my new voiceover demo is available now. I'm available for $30 per voiceover. Come and hire me now, is probably not going to be particularly helpful to you. But adding to the conversation of other people in the area that you're in will position you much better. And if one professional comes in, if say Rudy there is a voiceover artist, then he may then decide, well, I can't do this particular voiceover job, but I know that Peter has been very active in this group too. I might reach out to him and say, hey, mate, I know you've I know I've listened to your demos and you do the same thing I do. I can't do this particular job. Would you like me to pass it on? So there can be a lot of referral passing that happens in these groups as well. Another one over on the right is agile project management, which is all about a particular school of or methodology of managing projects. Now, in agile project management, you would definitely have to have a very big interest in it. And the second post by Patricia H of Agile 2 and Remote Working Environments, all about asynchronous communication. Do you agree? You would very much have to be someone who's very much in that industry and knows what Agile 2 and what asynchronous communication actually is, because it sounds like a whole lot of buzzwords. Now, I'm not really that likely to want to communicate with Patricia H, because number one, Patricia H has not got her full name in there. So I have no reason to think that she's not some guy in a call center in Bangladesh pretending to be a girl. There's no photo. There's nothing on that profile to attract me to interact with her. That said, though, if there is a robust conversation going on there, it doesn't hurt you to become part of that conversation. You don't have to follow it in depth. You don't have to add lots of expertise, but going in there and saying, hey, I don't know about whether this is in Agile 2, but I think that in general, Agile project management is, yes, all about asynchronous communication and making sure that that communication is maybe synchronized a bit more. And you can add a little bit of an opinion about that if you know what that topic's about. So obviously what you're going to do, you're going to search for topic areas that suit you, not just random topics that you just want to start bursting into. And finally, posting your own stuff. We're looking at posting between 2 and 3 times a week. Now, LinkedIn isn't necessarily the place for you to have to post every day. My own experiments have shown that when I post every day, my overall reach goes way, way down. People just don't see my stuff. And there's certain stuff I post which lots of people see, and there's certain things I post that lots of people don't see. Anything with video, anything with links to other places, and anything which has a graphic with it, to me, does not do well. But when I tell a short story in such a way that it attracts the eye and it attracts the emotions, I get lots of coverage. I'll get thousands of people looking at that particular post, commenting, sharing it even, and in some cases, just wanting to reach out and say, thank you so much for doing that. I've got a particular example next of where sharing a little bit of vulnerability about yourself and sharing a story that's true and has some relevance to what you're doing can actually bring you a lead. And this is a real live one, a screenshot of a real live lead coming into my comments under a particular post that I made. On the left, you've got me sharing a particular post. So about a week ago, I shared the ASBAS Digital Solutions Queensland post, which was about the webinar I ran on Monday this week. Then on the right, I've got one of my personal stories that I decided to post, which is all about a very short speech that I delivered at International Men's Day Forum in Darwin a couple of weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, I did this. It's still now getting comments and likes from it because it spoke to some emotions that people have. It actually got into people in a way that just sharing a little bit of information or sharing a link to a promotional post does not. And it led to Arthur down here at the bottom actually reaching out and saying, are you available to undertake a small scale Facebook application for business? Fantastic. I just said, yep, sure. Like, Arthur, I'll give you a call on Monday to discuss. I did have a call and we met yesterday for lunch, and that's now turning into a bit of lifetime value work for me. So I offered him, a lot of support. I met him for free for lunch, and now I've got a series of things I'm doing with him, which will give me a lifetime value that's far in advance of working on just a small project with him. And it all came because I happened to write something that got his attention in the feed, and he reached out with something that had nothing to do with what's in the feed. It was enough to reach out to him and say, this is someone who I want to work with. I'm going to reach out to you. So it was a really great way to network and generate a lead at the same time. So how do you build your network on LinkedIn? How do you grow the amount of people that you've got that ability to be able to reach? I'm going to steal someone else's formula. This is not mine. This is from Jo Saunders, who is a Perth-based LinkedIn specialist. She's very much about growing organic reach and organic influence on LinkedIn. She actually formed I can't remember the word. She made up a word and wrote a book about it that's all to do with the growth strategy behind growing your LinkedIn. Her name's Jo Saunders, so J-O and then Saunders, S-A-U-N-D-E-R-S. She's also available on the ASBAS Digital Solutions program, funnily enough, and holds regular workshops, and I believe we'll have some in the new year. She has what is called a 9-to-1 ratio, where you give 9 comments on other people's stuff before you post anything of your own. That way you're ensuring that you're doing what I call the jab, 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 right hook. That comes from, again, another person called Gary Vaynerchuk, who's all about the idea that you give, you give, you give, and then you can expect to receive something, or you've earned the right then to ask for something. In this case, you're going, I'm going to, and this is where the word farming comes in. Remember I was talking about the hunting and farming? Hunting is when you're going through, looking at the feed, looking for people who you can hit up. Hunting's going, okay, he looks like he's someone who I can look for, who may be interested in what I do. Quick, send him a message and say, hi, you don't know who I am, but I sell this and you should buy it. Cheers, bye. That's hunting. You're actually you're very, very carefully looking for what your prey is and then going out and attacking them. What we're looking at doing here is farming. We're looking to lay down some seeds, nurture a relationship, and then build it up. So what this does, it may not feel like you're nurturing anything by giving 9 random comments to 9 random posts. What you're doing though, if you're doing that every day, it means that you're always going to come back around to the same people, and you will have done maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 17 comments on one particular person's stuff over the last month. And you suddenly are part of their world. You've actually farmed a relationship with them. So by constantly doing this, and I do this almost every day, if I want to do a post every day, I have to comment on 9 things that other people are doing. Is it time consuming? Not really, because what people post is mostly small and short and sharp and very direct. So I'll look at what they've written and make sure that I respond in kind, not just something like, hey, great post, mate. Hey, great pic, mate. It's got to be something that has some kind of depth and substance to it that shows I've actually read what they've written. So if it's a post about somebody who just got a promotion for their job, I'll read what they've written and said, yep, they've gone from being a sales manager to being a regional sales manager. I'll actually mention that in the reply. I say, mate, that's a massive step up in your career. Looks like you must have been a bloody good sales manager to be offered the regional gig. Well done and congratulations, which is a lot more personal than saying, congrats, mate. It may sound a lot more efficient, right? Congrats, mate. But to add some personal touch to it to show you actually did read what was in there shows that you care enough. And you don't have to fake that care. In fact, when you try to fake that care, it doesn't come across as particularly as sincere. Because if you're not showing that constantly and nurturing that path, farming that patch of land, then it's going to come off as just, here's another slick guy trying to make a buck. What you do actually have to have some real empathy of your own. You have to give a damn about these people who are on there, because they're going to be clients one day, hopefully, or referring you through to people who could become clients one day. And if that's the case, you want to make sure that they really do think that you care. Don't fake it. Actually do care about them. Care enough about them that you look forward to seeing their posts each other day and then making a comment on them. Before you know it, you've made a new friend, a new client, a new way of diversifying your income streams. What I would do then in the post that I would do each week is maybe tell a story. My storytelling seems to be the thing that connects me with people the most. I can tell a story of something that happened, some way I've overcome an issue, some interesting circumstance I came across. The story of overcoming is far more than the story of instant success. Going in and saying, I've worked with this big brand and this big brand and this big brand and this big brand is just making you look like, and excuse my French, an absolute tosser. But by describing, he's saying, when I first started, I really knew nobody. It was really hard to make connections with people. I was terrible at networking, and I wasn't able to do any of this stuff like standing in front of a camera and talking to complete strangers on the internet. But I just had to sort of step out there, and I had some good people who showed me some techniques and some ways of trying to reach out in a way that didn't feel too uncomfortable to me. I just took baby steps. And a couple of years later now, I'm hosting webinars and I'm all over LinkedIn. I'm all over stages around the Northern Territory in Queensland and Western Australia. You're telling a story of overcoming that sounds sincere. It's showing that, yeah, I started back there too. I wasn't always confident. I wasn't always able to sit in front of a screen like this in a blank room in Berrima in the Northern Territory and be able to talk to people, but now I can. And there's a step towards that. And if you want to know what worked for me, well, I'll share my story with you. Searching and following people is what I call soft outreach. Now, soft outreach is not hunting down a name and just going, or hunting down a job role and going, I am looking for chief executive officers for everybody who's in Perth. Let me find you and then connect with you and force you to be my friend on LinkedIn. Not great. What you will do is, if you want to really build that relationship and nurture them, if you want to farm that relationship, fertilize that patch, yes, you go looking for those people. And then you do what is called following them. You don't connect, you follow. By following, what it allows you to do is to receive what they send out to the feed in your feed. And once that happens, you're able to comment on it. You're able to do that 9-to-1 ratio and actually include them in there. What happens is, over a few weeks or a few months, as you've been commenting on their stuff and they've been conversing with you in their feed, they'll one day notice that you're not actually in their connections, because they go looking for you and they realize, oh, you're not connected. And you may get a request to connect from them. They've actually then come to connect with you. The relationship's that much stronger because you nurtured it up to the point where they went, oh, wait a minute, I thought we were connected. We're always chatting all the time. What they didn't realize is that you nurtured that relationship by reaching out and not forcing yourself into their life, but just by dropping comments into some of their stuff. It's so much softer to approach it like that, and it doesn't freak people out, especially when it comes to approaching women. Now, not all women are, demure and scared of everything. That's a gross stereotype. Some women are very, very strong and don't mind being approached. But when you're a 46-year-old balding bearded man with tattoos, and you're then approaching a woman who's a business owner on LinkedIn and wanting to connect with them, all they see is like, oh my God, he's going to send me a photo of his private parts, and I just cannot deal with this. It's so important to nurture that relationship and build trust before you start to connect with people. And if everything you can do, allow them to connect with you after you perform that soft outreach to show them you are a connection that can be trusted and you're actually someone who's actually interested in what they do and what they say. And you've shown a track record of doing that. That's why I say farm when it comes to LinkedIn and any sort of networking rather than go hunting. It just feels more natural, and it feels more organic, and it feels more like making a friend, I suppose. On Facebook, you got some similar things. We've got business pages, groups, and individual people's profiles. So you can follow pages as your page. You may not know this, but you can actually follow someone else's business page as your business page. There's a way you can swap it over. So you can follow this as now the desktop tools are a lot better than the mobile tools for doing this. So when you go do it, there's some instructions you can do. You can just like Google it, say, how do I follow a business page as my business page on Facebook, and you'll find out how to do that. You can then check what your page news feed is. So know how you've got a feed in Facebook that's got all your family and friends and things you follow and the groups you're part of. There's also a page news feed that's available to you. And in the link I've just put there, facebook.com/page name/news_feed, replace page name with the address of your particular Facebook page. So if your business name is Richard's Roses, then you'll go facebook.com/Richard's Roses/news_feed. That will give you a feed of the different places that your Richard's Roses shop is actually following. So you can follow someone as you, and you can follow someone another business page as a business. This allows you to do things like, for instance, keep an eye on competitors. They'll see that you're following them, but who cares? We're all following each other these days. Or it allows you to do research on people who are doing the same thing as you interstate or overseas. And it gives you a dedicated place to go and see the feeds of people who you follow who are business people, not individual profiles, but business pages. It's a really useful tool for then going off and networking as a business with other businesses. And you do that same thing. The 9-to-1 ratio works really well there too. Go forth, respond to the things that they're posting, leave comments that are of value. And before they know it, they realize that you are a friendly business who also appreciates and respects them. They will appreciate and respect you. And when they are a complementary business that does something parallel to what you do, then you're easily able to reach out and refer business to each other. Actually, you'll find, and I get it all the time because I was doing this with a group called Brainium Labs, which is run by somebody who I've never worked with and never met until recently. We constantly refer work across to each other simply because I reached out, followed his business page as my business page, commented on his stuff. And through that, we actually realized that there's certain skills I had that he didn't, and there's certain skills he has that I don't. And that's formed a really nice working partnership, which means that I can refer him the technical work I don't want to touch. He can refer me the non-technical marketing work that he doesn't want to touch. And it's been a really fruitful relationship that was simply built from my business page following his business page. So comment on those posts. And then when you're as a business page, share what's appropriate to not just your consumers who follow you, but also other businesses that may follow you, something that may appeal to them and show them that you'll be a great business to collaborate with. When it comes to groups, I really thoroughly recommend you join business and community groups on Facebook. The buy, sell, and swap groups, I don't know, they're just not so great because they're usually full of people who want stuff for free or for 20 bucks is what I describe it as. They're not really serious shoppers, a lot of tire kickers, but they do give you the option to be able to, because buy, sell, and swap and community groups don't always stay on topic. There might be someone asking for, hey, I don't want to spend a fortune on fixing the side gate. Does anyone know what kind of nails I could use that are going to be best for fastening it to the other fence? And so you can jump in and say, look, mate, using nails won't hold it in place because they just sort of dig it in and they don't actually grip onto this internal structure of the timber. You're going to use this screw. Here's this 5-inch screw you can buy from Bunnings for this much. When you become known for your expertise in those groups, you also become known as the person who's the smartest in the room on that particular topic. And that then leads to the possibility of people saying, hey, can I DM you for a price on that? Because honestly, I don't really have the time to do it. And I don't think I've got the ability to be able to do that either. Great. You've just picked up a new lead or a new client. But going in there and just simply posting, hey, I've got a 5-week plan for you, change your life. Click on this link and download my ebook so that you can change your life too. No, It's just nobody's going to follow it. You're not going to pick up a lot of work from that, quite simply because you're not giving people a chance to be nurtured by you. That's hunting. Hunting is just putting out a bit of bait and hoping that someone catches it so you can grab them. Farming is the process of sowing the seed out there that you are the expert in the room, then continuing to do that over and over again, spending some time every week if you can, or every month, on spending time in that particular group to sow your expertise. And then at some point, someone, the sunflower will pop up out of the earth and say, hey, I'd like to work with you. So it's happened for me in a Boost with Facebook Australia group that I work with now. Facebook Australia sponsors my participation in that to help support people. But because I am giving so much support seemingly for free for people, it's led to me gaining a whole bunch of new clientele across Australia who are looking for advice that they'll pay for. They're looking for services they pay for. And it's positioned me as an expert on the Facebook family of apps, which I am, but it's also nice to be recognized as that. Now, how is that a form of networking? Quite simply, that before I was ever asked by Facebook to be paid to be part of that group and to mentor people in there, they did actually notice that I was doing that anyway. I was in that group because I saw it as an opportunity to go, look, I've got all this knowledge, I can help people in here. And so I did. I sew in, half an hour a day and answer people's questions and give them support and links to places where they could get help, give them tips that perhaps the Facebookers couldn't give them directly because it was against some terms of service. It's a way for you to show your expertise and create trust, so that now I've now picked up 3 individual clients of quite high value simply because I've shown and proven that I know what I'm talking about and know what I'm doing. So they know to trust me with the next step of helping them out with their particular business. And that's been a very fruitful experience for me. I can tell you that much. Then when it comes to people, the way that you act as a person on your profile. So in your personal profile, remember, even if it's personal, it's professional, because customers and clients are friends of yours, friends of your family. They could be people who are only one step away from people who do know you. If you act like a pork chop on a feed, and you're carrying on like with all your hidden latent political opinions and being an idiot basically on that feed, then that's going to naturally spill over to your business. It's just inevitable. When you're a business owner in this day and age and you want to operate on social media, you've got to understand that it's not just your business that's operating on social media, it's you as a person who's operating on social media. So you might as well just admit that that whole thing of trying to be that person who's blank behind the scenes and nobody's going to see my face. They're just going to, it's just going to be assumed that there's this person who runs this business and they're shining example of human virtue and morals. Make it be known via your actual personal profile that you own that business, that you run that business, that your business is this business. It'll keep you under control. And just remember that every time you go to have a really nasty, opinionated attack on somebody who you don't agree with, or a politician that you don't agree with, know that it's going to reflect not just on you, but on your business as well. This will keep you in line and make you far more attractive for people to network with. I can almost guarantee that not everybody on this call will have great control of their privacy settings on Facebook and knowing how to post things that only go to the closest family and friends who can be trusted with the real you, and then the rest of the world. There's a difference. You can actually do that. You can post different things to different audiences within Facebook from your profile, but most people don't know how to do that. So the safe thing to do is always act professional, even if it's personal. And spamming people through your personal profile is just, it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Long-term problem is business growth. The short-term solution is quick spam everyone, get them to buy my stuff in a hurry. Most people are not going to buy from you just because you've spammed them with a request to come to their special introductory night and discovery calls and all that sort of thing. They're just not. They don't trust you yet. And the people who know and love you don't know and love you as a business owner. They know and love you as a person you are. Yes, they may refer you on to other people, but this is not the place to spam people. If you can offer a little bit of advice along the way that isn't branded with everything you want to do, so your friends and family go, hey, I just discovered this new way of preparing tomatoes that they don't taste like tomato and they're actually really nice and they reduce the acid. Whatever that particular circumstance may be for you, share it with your family and friends. Don't turn it into a business opportunity. Think of it like this. You're the expert in the room at what you do, whether it's in front of other businesses, a complete stranger, or your friends and family. To act appropriately and share amazing information with them so they know that you are the expert in the room, and they will refer you as the expert in the room, not as your business, but as, Kevin, who is the amazing guy who knows how to match colors with colors and make an interior design come alive. So that's all the online stuff. That's the LinkedIn and the Facebook. There's so much to take in there. We could almost just have an online networking for Facebook and an online networking for LinkedIn as subject areas of their own webinars. In this case, we'll look at offline networking, or real world networking, networking where you're breathing the same oxygen as everybody else around you in the same location, if you like. The most important thing to really consider before you walk into a room is to go into that room with a plan. And that plan is to know who you are, know what you have to offer as a business and as a person. And then possibly the most important of the three is knowing how to listen to what people are saying in that room. Because let's face it, people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And knowing how to listen to people is a great big contributor to that. So let's break that down a little bit. Knowing who you are comes down to having a really good formula. And that formula is the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch is not you trying to sell anything. It's just responding to the question, hi, what do you do? And the answer would be, well, my name is Dante St James. My business is Treaty Business Consulting. And you know how small businesses get to a point of their growth where they get very stagnant, they get stuck, and they get a little bit discouraged. They can't quite move beyond that to grow to something more substantial. Well, we solve that by putting processes in place that we know and have proven that take businesses from stuck to breaking through and growing again. And our ideal customer is a small business that is motivated, that is ready and willing and established enough now that they can actually go back into a growth phase again. I can just say that off the top of my head. I don't even have to read it, simply because I know it so well. I can go into any one of these networking situations of all those memberships I'm in and represent Treaty, represent myself, represent my businesses, represent other networks or other contracts that I work with, and say the same thing. I make sure I've got the elevator pitch down pat for all those things. Another group that I represent is the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program. So I can say the same thing. My name is Dante St James. My business is the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program. You know how small businesses can't always afford to get themselves IT support and to hire coaches to help them get through these digital challenges in this new world. Well, we solve that by giving heavily subsidized rates to attend free or low cost workshops and one-to-one coaching services to help them get from not knowing something to knowing how to work with something. And their ideal customer is a business that has under 19 employees and is willing to grow and learn. Again, I can say it off the top of my head because it comes almost like breathing to me. We understand exactly who we represent. So you develop yours too. What's your name? What's your business name? What's your how? What's the problem you solve? And then how do you solve that? And then define who your ideal customer is. Now, you may have to go through a bit of a branding strategy session, or even an ASBAS digital solutions session with a particular advisor, either myself or someone else on my team at Treaty in the NT, or someone within Queensland or the Northern or Western Australia who might be more suitable for this, and get an idea of how do you describe that? How do you work that elevator pitch? How do you get to the point where telling someone who you are, what you do, who you represent, who your ideal clients are, is just like breathing. It just rolls off the tongue every time. So if you need help with that, definitely reach out to the program. We'd love to chat more about that and help you define those things. Secondly, we look at what you offer, knowing what it is you offer, knowing what it is your product set is. And this is where you may want to work on a one-liner that explains all your products and services in one statement. So it's very easy for someone to understand what you do. Now, the objection is always, oh, but I do so many things. I've got 13 different kinds of things I do. Well, they all relate to something, right? If you're I'm a lifestyle coach, but I also do aromatherapy, and I do nutrition plans, and I make my own scented candles, and I coach people on mindset. And so how can you actually tile that down to one line that adequately explains what it is you offer? I sell products and services that help people to be their best when they're not feeling their best. Great one-liner. It explains what people are, how they feel about it, and how they overcome that feeling. How you solve the problem that somebody has. If their problem is that their car breaks down too often, I have a mechanical workshop that helps people who have old cars keep them running for longer. Great. That's what you offer. You're not going to offer that, oh, I sell BF Goodrich tires and I sell, Goodyear tires and Dunlop tires, and we do brake services and we fix up ABS braking systems and mechanical stuff and mufflers. And you just go, look, we know that some people have cars that are old. We help make those cars run for longer. That's what we specialize in. That one liner says everything you need to say, and it answers the question of what you do. It answers the question of what does your business do, and also explains what problem that you solve. You solve the problem of keeping old cars running for longer. You solve the problem of getting people who don't feel great to be feeling great. You solve the problem of providing an expert service that matches the carpet that you want in your house with the kind of furniture that you want on your house. I just did that recently for a friend. I apparently am a bit of a color expert. Who would have known? But he just didn't know that putting cream colored furniture with a gray carpet is going to look really weird. For some reason, I understood that and I passed that on. What is your superpower? And what do you solve? That's what you offer. And then knowing how to listen. Remembering names and faces is a really hard thing when it comes to online, to the networking. I meet literally thousands of people every year. I'm not going to remember all their names, but I'm going to remember a big chunk of them, maybe a couple of hundred at least. Well, how do I do that? I do it by repeating their name back to them. This is my own technique. You may have a technique of your own. So if someone comes up to me and says, "Hi, I'm Kirsty from Real Office Plants," and I'm like, "Oh, g'day, Kirsty. It's nice to meet you." So it's Kirsty. Is that Kirsty with a C or Kirsty with a K? And oh, definitely K. Oh, the real Kirsty. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to forget that name, am I? And so Kirsty, tell me what it is you guys actually do. And then, so I've repeated that name now 3 times. It's starting to embed in my head. So I'm drawing a comparison between that face and that name, and it's getting in my head. Then finally, as I see them off and they move on to talk to the next person, I say, "Kirsty, it's been a pleasure for you. If you ever want to reach out, just, be the Kirsty you know you are and reach out to me. My name's Dante. Here's my card." And I've repeated that name enough times, it's going to stick now, so that I'm going to remember that. It's now embedded in my brain that that person over there, her name is Kirsty, also useful for networking. When I come across someone who says, "Oh, my office is just so dreary. It's so white and so bare and barren. It's just like, oh, I could do something more." I go, "Oh my goodness, you need to meet Kirsty over there. Kirsty is from an indoor plant place and she'll be able to do all that for you. Hey, let me come here over. Come on, Richard. This is Kirsty. Kirsty, Richard." Kirsty will be thrilled that you remembered who she is. Richard's great because he's just had a problem solved and they're doing business. When you become a connector in any sort of network, it's far more powerful than you just getting connected to other people. It's about connecting other people. And that makes such a massive difference because it makes you the expert in the room who knows how people work and how people tick. And so you can be trusted even more. Another little technique I use is to connect with people I meet as soon as possible on LinkedIn. Not everyone's on there, but it's a great way for me to get straight into their online life and be able to follow their updates if they do them. So I'll always have my phone with me naturally. I pick up the phone and I'll go into LinkedIn. I'll look up Kirsty's name, and so her name's Kirsty Freeman. I'll look her up. Oh, there she is from realindoorplants.com. Great. I'll either send off a connection request because I do know her and I have met her, so it's actually appropriate to do that. Or if I go, you know what, I just sort of was in a conversation where I didn't really talk to her. I was really talking to her business partner. So what I might do, I just might follow her now that I found her on LinkedIn. So you can take that relationship to an online place where you can start to do your farming. Collecting business cards, even though people say, "Oh, it's old hat, no one gives business cards anymore." Rubbish. Business cards are my lifeline, because when I collect business cards, I go home and then one of the first things I do, I send them an email and say, "It was great to meet you, Kirsty. As from what I understand, you provide services to provide plants to offices that are a bit dreary and drab. I reckon I might know a few people. So if you don't mind, I might send out your phone, your number on your business card to a few friends of mine. Would that be okay?" She'll come out and say, "Oh yeah, of course, that'd be amazing. Thank you so much for thinking of me." You've now become this person who they know and trust, and you're part of a network, so that the converse of that is, because you've helped them out, they'll go, oh, that lovely guy who runs that digital marketing agency. Oh my goodness, I know that Nanette, she was actually looking for help with this with her new network marketing business. She could probably use a bit of a chat with someone like him. I'm just going to go, and she reaches out to you and says, do you mind if I can pass on your details, my mate Nanette, because she needs help with digital marketing. Boom, you're networking and you're getting leads through it. And it really is that simple. It may sound like it's simple. It may sound like it's formulaic. And yes, I've only got 3 or 4 years head start on you. So if you don't know if how any of this works or you haven't done any of it, I've only got a few years head start on you. And I was shy. I was shattered. I've been broken up with a long-term partner. I had massive injuries that took me from being super fit and muscular to being a chubby little bear like I am now. And I just lost my job of 13 and a half years when I started the process of networking. I was in a pretty bad state. I was introverted. I didn't like people. I didn't trust people, but I knew I had to do something if I was to grow my business. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And you can start to be that connector. And it's actually a lot of fun. It becomes like a little game of, let's see who I can match together. You become a little matchmaker, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll get very energized by it. A lot of us introverts like to say, oh, every time I go out around people, it just drains me so much and I have to go home and re-energize again. That's only because you don't want to do it. You'll eventually get to the point where you enjoy the process of networking. You'll enjoy the process of helping people to connect and grow their businesses. And when you do that, wow, you are energized by it. It doesn't become a drudge work anymore. It becomes something that's really fun. The golden rule when it comes to all forms of offline real world networking, I call it jab, 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 right hook. I take this from Gary Vaynerchuk. He's one of my little heroes. He's a bit aggressive and he's potty mouthed and he's probably not everyone's cup of tea. But what I've enjoyed from him is this idea that you give a little, give a little, give a little, and then you carry it home for yourself. So the way of looking at it was say you give, you give, you give, or you comment, you comment, you comment, then you post something, or you refer, you refer, you refer, and then you ask for a referral back. It's about going in and saying, how can I help them? Not how can they help me? Sounds like let's say it sounds a little bit like John F. Kennedy, isn't it? Not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You go in and say, how can I connect them? Not how can they connect me? And what it does, it then opens up that referral mindset that people get into, and then they just want to help you because they like you so damn much. You're a nice guy. You're a great girl. You're able to, to be someone who people like being around. So they want to refer you because they see you as the expert in what you do, whether it's nutrition, whether it's lifestyle coach, whether it's making furniture, whether it's as a mechanical workshop. You are the expert in the room to them. They don't know any people who do what you do. And if they do, they like you more. So they're going to refer you. So we go on to networking groups now as we come towards the end of what we're doing in this particular session. With networking groups, they vary amongst like lots of different backgrounds, lots of different objectives, a lot of different questions that they answer, and a lot of different levels of time commitment and money commitment you may have to do. So how I approach any networking group before I join it is number one, to see if it has relevance to my business and helping my business to grow. Let's face it, with all this niceness and all this karma and all this give, there's going to eventually be a return on investment. I measure my return on investment in everything I do with these networking groups because I'm actually coming to that time. Over the Christmas break, I review all my memberships and I look at who I've actually got the most return of the investment out of. And if I find that there's one that I've just not getting any sort of return on investment out of, I'm not getting a positive return from, or I look at it and go, yes, I'm not getting a positive return this year, but I can see I can next year. If I don't see that, I wipe them off. I actually not become a member anymore. I lose my membership. And I've done that with a couple of organizations already. I'm about to do it with one particular organization now, actually two that I'm going to drop. But then I've also then investing into some new organizations. So if that is relevant, is the cost something that you can absorb? Not everyone become a Chamber of Commerce member because it could cost you up to $600 a year to do that. Now, for me, the return on investment has been tremendous. But that said, the first year it was not tremendous at all, but I saw the potential and I just turned up to more stuff, did more things, collected more business cards, followed up with more people, and it did then have that return on investment. And now it's wildly successful. But Cost of entry can be something that stops you. Now, that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're being cheap and nasty. It just means you're working within the limits you've got now. There are free and low cost alternatives to all these things. And then there's the time commitment as well. A lot of these business networks require that you give them not only, a day on a weekend, it's a bit like a church really, but they want you to come to a Wednesday night thing, or they might have a weekly breakfast or something like that. That adds to the time, but it also adds to the cost. Sometimes the membership joining fee is just the beginning. There may also then be the cost of each week's breakfast at say $25 to $30. Now, that becomes pretty expensive over time. So you don't necessarily want to get to the point where you're spending so much on this you really can't afford at this particular point in time. So how I break it down with the relevance, I say, is this group relevant to my type of business? Before I joined Skull International, which is a collection of tourism and travel operators and owners and managers, I had to say, well, I'm not one of those things, but I do supply services to those clubs. So to members of that club. So I'm kind of appropriate to that. And if I've got customers and clients who are already in that industry, and I've got a chance of meeting more people who are in that industry, then this is relevant to my type of business. Now, me joining, probably a bad example I was just thinking about right then, if I joined the Energy Club. So the Energy Club is all to do with those industries that are around power generation, the things like your like fracking, like the onshore gas collection, any of the associated industries with oil and gas exploration, then that's not really that appropriate to me because I'm not dealing with businesses that generally deal with that industry. So for me to join the Energy Club doesn't really sit that firm with my objectives. But a tourism club, absolutely it does. Then you look at it and go, is this particular business networking organization or this business network a network or a social group? Now, that can be a really hard thing to tell without you going and see them. When I first met a particular group of people, I thought they looked like a social drinking group. And I was worrying that I would be trying to get into a network that felt more like a social club than an actual legitimate business network. I hung around a bit longer because I thought there's got to be some way of doing business here. I found my place in that network, and now I've been in them for 3 years and a committee member of them for 2 years, simply because I found that there was business to be made. I just had to go about it a different way than just simply going, here's my elevator pitch, my business, let's meet. I had to look at it as going a bit more building a relationship, making sure that every meeting I went to, I went and talked to someone I didn't know. As an introverted person, that was just like scraping fingernails down a chalkboard. It just totally creeped me out. I didn't want to do it. But as I did it more, it became very easy to. Now the point is, I make it actually my point of a committee member of that club is to ensure that people know who I am, because it gives them a nice, easy in, because they might not know anybody. They're just as nervous as I am. And it also paints me as a guy who gets to promote my business to them quite naturally, because they're going to ask you that inevitable question in any network is, oh, so what do you do? And then you've got an answer ready, pre-packaged, ready to go. And do you know any others who've found success in that particular network? Do you know friends who've recommended it? Have you heard testimonies and stories from real people who've said, yes, when I joined this network, I actually turned it into a really great business generator? And then the cost factor is how much does it cost to join the group? And then how much does each event cost to attend afterwards? Are they free? Are they a cost associated with? And you plan a budget over that year to be part of that network. It cost me approximately $2,300 to be part of this particular network I was just talking about. I won't tell you which one, but you can reach out to me and ask me. $2,300 when I factor in the joining cost, which is only actually $150. It's not that much to become part of it. But then every month there's a $75 to $85 luncheon or dinner that I've got to go to. So once I've done that, then I've got to factor that into my budget for the year for that particular network. You may be hearing some jets going over beside me. I'm on the flight path, so it might be a little bit noisy here in a second. Then next you go, okay, what are the other things that come with that? Does it cost me a lot in petrol to get there, or public transport tickets to get to those particular events? Factor that into your budget. Does it also cost me to do things like providing a prize for their raffle this month? If I'm providing some kind of sponsorship of prizes, then you factor that into your budget as well. Given that this particular network gave me well over $32,000 worth of return on investment, my $2,300 pales into insignificance when it comes to the return I've got from this particular industry. So for me, great return on investment. But I didn't start off by giving them $2,300 a year, did I? I started off with just joining for $150. And then from there, I went to occasional meetings where I got to know people, and now it's become a regular fixture every month on my agenda. Then you look at the time investment. So is it a weekly event? Is it a monthly event? Is it quarterly? Some of those BNI kind of chapters, which are very formalized business referral groups, they require you to be at their meetings every single week because it's a particular formula that you're following, a very successful formula, but it takes a lot of commitment. You may not be in a position to do that. Does it take an hour out of your day? Does it take 2 hours out of your week? Does it take half a day out every month? You've got to factor that in. How much does your time cost? I know that my time is factored out at $180 per hour. So if I take that 1 hour out of my workday, it's costing me $180 to be there on top of the $24 for the breakfast. So you factor this into your budget as well. Put a price on your time. So therefore you know how much you're either missing out and what the true cost of that is. So that when you look and go, oh, I made $17,000 out of contacts I made through that business network, you can compare apples with apples and go, I have actually spent $18,000 being part of that network this year. That $17,000, that's a loss. That's an actual loss. Oh, I'm getting rid of that one. So make a time budget just the same way that you'll make a money budget for attending networking events. It can get very addictive very quickly. So making sure you have that budget keeps you nice and logical about making the right decisions, not based on emotions, but on what your real business bottom line is. And of course, budget time for follow-ups, because these networks are all only as valuable as the time you spend one-on-one with a potential client or another member of that organization. It's one thing to be there for an hour for lunch. It's another thing to take another hour to meet for lunch with an individual to follow up and perhaps do a little bit more exploration into their business and understanding how you could offer some services and products to them, or likewise, they can offer those to you. The one-to-one side of it is ultimately where you're going to make the best connections. The network is just the introduction. Some of the kind of networks we're talking about, BNI, or Business Networking International, is probably the most well-known and the most widespread in the world, the world's biggest business network. I'm in Darwin. We don't have a chapter here. They used to, closed down. But in places like the Gold Coast, Geelong, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Mandurah, Geraldton, all these places have got BNI chapters, and they're very, very full of vitality and very, very active. So if you want to join one, now this one has a high cost of entry, and it has a high cost every week. But as I said, I was only with them for about a year and a half on the Gold Coast, and I made quite a considerable return on investment based on that. So I was very happy with that. BX is like a little less formalized version of BNI. BX is also a very similar approach. You go every week, you make sure you're getting referrals for people. These are business referral networks. The members of Better Business Habits in Darwin, they are there to provide referrals outside themselves to other people who may need the services of other people in that group. The same with Facilitate in Perth and Business Networking Advantage Australia on the East Coast. So look at some of those up, see if any of those appeal to you. Most of them allow you to go along for the first time for free or for just the cost of your breakfast. So you can get a feel for how they work and whether that's something that can work for you. But the one you're most likely to start to be part of is these sort of sideline networks, your chambers of commerce, your regional tourism offices, women's networks, gay lesbian networks, indigenous business networks, small business networks, LinkedIn local groups, meetups, that kind of thing. And you can find a lot of those on Eventbrite, on meetup.com, on Facebook. There's always some events like that coming up. And even on LinkedIn these days, you'll see local events coming up that are full of opportunities to network. So please do start to network, start to at least consider it, but please approach it very sensibly, making sure that you've got the budget of time and money to be able to do these things. If you'd like to know more about networking, I'm available on the ASBAS Digital Solutions program at a subsidized rate of, well, if you've never been part of the program before, you'll get it for free. If it's your first time and you have done a workshop at least before, $44, including GST. And for any follow-ups, if you've already been on the program before, $66, including GST. Other than that, though, there's a ton more other people who are equally as qualified as I am to speak on this topic. So check out businessstation.com.au to find out more about how you can be part of this as well. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe down there or leave a comment. I'll be able to answer those as we get on with this too. It'll be available on Business Station's YouTube channel next week, about middle of the week, and it's available right now on my particular channel as I'm recording this live. So please have a great weekend, grow your business, reach out and network for the stars. My name's Dante St James, and I thank you for joining me this afternoon for a really cool, fun networking event. See you later.